Warning: this video will contain significant spoilers for RWBY up to the end of Volume 8, and light spoilers for the ending of Volume 9. Jeff Williams' song "This Will Be the Day" is used as the opening theme for the first volume of RWBY, but allusions and references to it are present multiple times in subsequent volumes. Notably, All Things Must Die with the phrase "bloody evolution", Trust Love with "You're holding out for some romantic life, maybe you'll wake up in a world of charm", and For Every Life with "Will this be the day that we always feared". Additionally, in Volume 1, Chapter 1, Ruby Rose is listening to the song during Roman Torchwick's robbery at the Death Shop. And in the final scene of Volume 9, the initial melody of the chorus is played by an electric guitar in a comforting, nostalgic manner. In this video, I will begin with an analysis of the song's musical aspects, move on to a detailed interpretation of the lyrics, and conclude with a look at the parallels between the music and the opening titles of Volume 1. So, let's get to analyzing. The song is in 4/4 time, typical of contemporary music, and consists of two parts. The first part begins with a 1-bar distorted riff, followed by 2 bars of instrumental, 3 verses of 4 bars each, and a 10-bar chorus. The second half initially follows the first part's structure, starting with 2 bars of instrumental music and 3 verses of 4 bars each, but then introduces a 10-bar guitar solo linked to a 10-bar vocal part using another 2 bars of instrumental. The song ends with a final 10-bar chorus and an electric guitar strum. The tempo is relatively fast, at around 94 BPM, contributing to a feeling of excitement and almost frenzy, as the singer's voice and percussion often play slightly ahead of the beat. The song is written in the key of D minor, which is typical for dramatic and heroic compositions, such as Bach's Toccata and Fugue, Mozart's Requiem, Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto, and, perhaps most famous of all, Handel's Saraband. Let's now focus on the instruments. The primary electric guitar parts are accompanied by Casey Lee Williams vocals, a bass line, and drums. I personally like this commentator's interpretation that the instruments can represent the 4 main characters of the show: guitars for Ruby, vocals for Weiss, bass for Blake, and drums for Yang. Intriguing details include using a distorted 16th note riff in the first bar to create tension and excitement. The riff is played on the right side guitar, reinforced by a second guitar on the left for the rest of the introduction. Williams also uses panning towards the song's end, with the singer's "We Are Lightning" moving from the listener's left to the right. Finally, the solo before the last chorus features multiple guitars playing dual harmony leads a diatonic third apart, infusing emotion and expressiveness into a relatively brief melodic passage. Okay, let's move on to the lyrics. The song alternates between a conversation based on a "you and me", that is, a dialogue where an unknown narrator addresses the listener directly, and a second conversation heavily focused on us. We are lightning. This will be the day we've waited for, the day we open up the door. As for who is speaking, there aren't enough clues to deduce their identity with certainty. However, it's important to note that this person never uses verbs like dream or hope, but always makes sure predictions with a confident tone. If the narrator is a character within the show, they're most likely someone knowledgeable and confident in their opinions. The other party could be any of the main characters, members of Team Ruby, Team Juniper, or Penny, as lines like "A warrior will soon run wild", "Prepare for your greatest moments, your finest hour", "The dream that you've always dreamed", and "Great Defender" reflect the common hope they all share to realize their dreams and improve their lives. The song's main themes are essentially 3: the epic war of legends, the cruel war of the real world, and the innocence of youth. Let me explain. The song contains multiple references to myths, legends, and fairy tales, but they are written in unaware, almost dreamy tones. After all, this is the show's first volume, and although the universe in which it is set is heavily based on fairy tales and myths with a seed of truth, the characters and audience don't know that yet, so these images of ancient powers and past eras are meant to make the listeners dream, make them believe that one day they will equal those ancient heroes, and that their own deeds will, in turn, be told in future legends. This vision of combat is opposed by the cold reality of war, cruel bringer of loss. Williams uses stark words such as revolution, bloody, harm, the light is fading, the dark returns, burn, sever, and lost forever. These expressions conflict harshly with the ideal visions of war that the characters had, and let us know that, while the show will have moments of epicness, it will also touch on incredibly dark and heavy themes. Seriously, the first time I saw The Fall of Beacon, I couldn't believe how brutal and desperate the tone had suddenly gotten. Last but not least, the theme of being young, inexperienced, and pure-hearted. This theme is expressed 3 times in the lyrics. You want a romantic life, a fairy tale that's full of charm, your heart will open minds, and victory is in a simple soul. The first sentence summarizes the protagonist's feelings, who feel an almost naive hope for the future. Still, the other 2 encapsulate the true message at the show's core, the significance of pure intentions and the superiority of a simple soul in war. It's not a coincidence that at the end of the chorus the rhythm played by the percussions, which was earlier almost entirely detached from the other instruments, comes together into the original tempo. Williams wants to underline the importance of the line "Victory is in a simple soul," which could be considered a fundamental principle of RWBY, and the truthfulness of which will be put to the test only in volumes 7 and 8. Without delving into our personal opinions about who had a better plan between General Ironwood and the protagonists, I think we can all agree that the disagreement between the two, the fight between mind and heart, made it easier for Atlas to fall, if not partly caused it. This Will Be the Day clearly tells us that pure intentions can convince others, and that, in general, the heart has to win over the cold and calculating mind to save the world. But this message, which has been at the basis of the show for more than half its length, is driven into crisis by the fall of Atlas, because we can't clearly tell who holds the most responsibility for it, the heart or the mind. Now that we have outlined the general meaning of the song, let's focus on some stylistic details that really made me appreciate it. Firstly, a recurring pattern in the verses and chorus alternates objective statements with direct appeals to the listeners, like "They see you as, prepare for, this will be the day, welcome to a world," and "Your world, beware." The rhymes are simple and consistently placed in both halves of the song, and are likely used only to make the song more pleasant to listen to. Finally, verb tenses play a crucial role in establishing the tone of the song. Besides some specific examples of past tenses, always used to tell us something about the protagonist's basic backstories, the verbs are always either in present or future tenses, which makes sense when you consider that this is the beginning of the show, and therefore the opening can't reference the plot of past seasons, because there just aren't any. Let's remember this detail about verb tenses and analyze specific lyrics that stood out to me. "A warrior will soon run wild" and "we open up the door," which is an idiom meaning "we create new possibilities," are 2 examples of the hopeful visions and promises that the protagonists believe in, of the epic war we talked about before, and contrast a lot with the stark and crude reality of war in lines like "beware that the light is fading," "beware if the dark returns." The phrase "hope you're ready for revolution," specifically, carries bitter irony, as the use of "hope you're ready" implies a certain level of affability between the narrator and the protagonists, and that our heroes are indeed ready to confront their destiny, when it's clear that they are actually incredibly unprepared to face what is coming towards them. The resulting message is that war will inevitably happen, whether they want it or not, and it's in their best interest to train so it doesn't result in total annihilation. Towards the song's end, we find even brilliant lights will cease to burn, which could foreshadow Penny and Pyrrha's deaths or Yang's sacrifice, and day and night will sever, hope and peace are lost forever. Now, those two verses had me stumped for quite a while, until I found a possible interpretation that foreshadows information revealed only in Volume 6, Chapter 6, The Lost Fable. I believe the sentence "day and night will sever" is meant to be a biblical reference to a passage in the book of Genesis, where God separates light from darkness. We can therefore deduce that the moment when day and night will sever is thematically linked to divine intervention, and here the meaning of hope and peace are lost forever becomes clear. In the Lost Fable, the god of light told Ozma that everyone will be judged when he and his brother return to Remnant. If the two gods find people still fighting among themselves, they will erase their world from existence. The song's narrator sees a world in which peace is about to be lost, and with it the hope of surviving the god's return. The last puzzle piece is understanding the third verse. We are lightning, straying from the thunder, miracles of ancient wonder. Obviously, thunder was considered by the ancient peoples as a miracle of magic or divine nature, so this is the umpteenth reference to legends and past eras. But what does straying from the thunder mean? My interpretation is that our heroes, including the narrator, have supernatural powers but don't use them to search for glory. Instead, they shy away from it, because in the world of RWBY, a real hero is defined by their simple soul, who really can't care less about glory. I'll now conclude with an analysis of the opening in connection to the song. I'll be quick and keep a broad focus, because, honestly, I'm not nearly as expert in cinematography as music and writing. The opening starts with Ruby Rose kneeling before her mother's grave and seeing a cloaked figure, probably Summer's ghost. One could therefore hypothesize that the words from the first verse are being addressed to Ruby by her mother, but the evidence for this is inconclusive. Still, it's a nice thought. After transitioning to the title of the show, we see shots of Weiss preparing to face the Armagigas summon, Blake being haunted by the silhouette of Adam's mask, and Yang looking for Raven, paired with the lyrics "Finest Hour," "Dream You've Always Dreamed," and "Is About to Flower." The subsequent shots don't seem to hold any meaningful link to the song, but are only there to introduce the series' antagonists, the Green, Torchwick, and Cinder, using the color schemes of the four protagonists: red, white, black, and yellow. The verses "I don't wanna hear your absolution, hope you're ready for revolution" coincide with an intimidated John being comforted and supported by his teammates, meaning that even if the road ahead is dangerous and scary, they will be able to travel it together. Boy, this hits different after watching Volume 3. Lastly, the words "new solutions" and "bloody evolution" are accompanied by images of military aircraft, while "your heart will open minds" has to refer to Team RWBY, as Williams sings it while we see their faces and symbols in succession. And with that, thank you for watching till the end. Let me know if you liked this video, because I might make more in the future. Please consider checking out the sources linked in the description, as other people made videos similar to this one, and you might find them quite interesting. Now, I'm finally at the end of my 4 pages long script, and still need to edit this video. So, see you next week.